Oh, today we are here with Kurt of the Pinball Lounge Arcade in Oviedo, Florida. And they are the sponsor of Christopher Franchi being at Freeplay, Florida this year. Christopher Franchi is the artist of all versions of Batman 66, Guardians of the Galaxy, with the hexagons in it, and the Beatles and the Munsters. These are Stern pinballs that all have been at the Pinball Lounge at one point and in almost all versions, right? Your style to me has been relieving to see after years and years of Photoshop, clip art, asset art packages. Thank you for bringing a refreshing art to pinball.
Oh, my pleasure.
When you were growing up, did you want to be a professional artist? Was it a dream?
I don't know if you'd call it a dream. It was what I wanted to do. It wasn't really. I guess the dream aspect of that was like I saw like, wouldn't it be cool to like draw a Kiss album cover?
Right.
I wanted to do art, but I just never thought that those type of jobs would be accessible to me. And I didn't really quite understand commercial art. So when I was a child, I was just like, how am I going to make a living doing art? Because my dad kept telling me, you're going to be one of those bums selling velvet paintings at the gas station. Just like, okay, well, I can't feed a family doing that. So it wasn't until I was in my early teens that I discovered the concept of commercial art and that you could actually make a living doing it, and just pretty much pursued it. I never had a job. Actually, I regret that I never had a job working at like Burger King or a pizza place. Most of my friends, my teenage friends, were getting jobs like that.
Right.
And I got out of high school and went right into art jobs. That's all I've ever had. So
You didn't even apply. You just went into art. You didn't even apply for entry jobs.
I had people, like I was doing these like art classes, and the guy who was running the art classes, he knew people. So he knew I was graduating. He's like, I got you hooked up as soon as you graduate.
High school.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
So when I got out of high school. I actually got thrown out of the house when I was 17. And I ended up getting a scholarship to a very prestigious art school and couldn't take it because I was out on my own and I had to earn a living. So basically went through the process of becoming an artist the hard way, which is working at places that I was kind of underqualified for, but they liked my ability. So they kind of trained me, and then computers came along, and it was the same thing. I got a job. I didn't know how to use a computer, but they worked on computers, so they're like, well, we like your art, so we'll show you how. So it was a long road to get where I am, but it was a fun ride, basically.
Well, there's no easy way to become an artist, is there? I've never heard of that path, and I know.
No.
The easy way would be, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some people just, I guess, have some kind of innate skill.
If you really shine, you can get work, but it's almost like Hollywood. It's almost like you got to know somebody,
right?
And they tell a friend, and and that's how you basically get work. But it's I've been fortunate. I worked for Stern because in 2016 when they were looking for somebody to do Batman, they just went on Google and typed in Batman, and because I'm a huge Batman TV show fan, I've already had artwork that I had done. I had done work for Warner Brothers for DVDs for the animated Batman 66 cartoon and some model kit boxes and stuff like that. So Stern had seen that, and that's how they hired me. And it's just kind of rolled from there. I've always been a fan of pinball. I've always loved pinball. I've owned a Data East Batman since 2000.
Is that the first game you bought?
First game I bought,
okay.
Yeah. But I grew up playing pinball because I grew up playing hockey. So in all the hockey arenas, there were always pinball machines in like the warming rooms for the family, and the brothers and sisters to play. So when my brother was playing hockey, I was playing pinball. So.
And were some hockey themes like Bobby Orr? And...
I never saw one of those in an arena.
That would have made sense, right?
The one that I played all the time was Captain Fantastic.
Right.
And so I ended up buying one. So I now have one. That's my only EM that I have.
It's a very good game.
It's brutal. It's brutal. It's a drain monster.
It's used in a lot of tournaments, and it's one of the games I believe makes you a better player. There's certain games that just make you.
It's in tournaments because they don't want tournaments to last a week long.
They shouldn't.
So
I love the little gap between the flippers, the double flippers on the one side.
Yeah, you always because you go to try and save the ball and it ricochets off one and goes right through the two flippers on the other side and out, or the out lanes are just treacherous. It's like Ghostbusters on down the middle and the sides. Like just it's a killer, but it's fun. Like you said, it makes you a better player, definitely.
So you did the Batman 66 art for Stern and previously and for other people. Did you grow up? Because you're a big Batman fan growing up. Mm-hmm. Did you draw for fun, like draw Batman and draw characters
all the time?
So
I used to. My big thing was I would take construction paper and cut out all the different colors, like the boots, and I would make little paper figures, paper dolls.
That's awesome.
But none of it was I think the only thing I drew was maybe like the face, like the eyes and the mouth and like the bat, but everything else. Like the belt, I would cut out of yellow construction paper and tape it on, and the gray suit with the blue boots, and everything was all hand cut, and I had all the superheroes, and that was like my thing. Yeah, it's just, it's sort of like one of those jobs. It's like kismet, like it took a long time. It took till I was 50 years old to get it, but it came along, and I was prepared.
When you were a kid. You wonder if it's possible to do art covers or do art for bands, or how, who were bands that you wanted to do when you were growing up, and who did you end up working for that you liked growing up, or you wanted to?
Kiss was the only band that mattered when I was a kid, because they were everything. They were superheroes, they were monsters, they were rock stars. Like you name it, science fiction.
They transcended the music. They transcended. Yeah.
With the costumes and all that. I mean, what more could you want as a kid? It was like everything you loved was all mashed up into one thing. So I always wanted to do that. I ended up working for Kiss for 5 or 6 years. I never got to officially do an album cover, though. In Russia, there's a greatest hits thing where they just kind of stole some of my Kiss art and put it on the cover.
They do that.
Yeah. Didn't get a credit, but the art's there, so I bought a copy. But I did a ton of stuff. I did all their merchandise, tour merchandise, retail merchandise, their brand packaging. I worked for their magazine, did photographed concerts, did interviews with the band members, and all sorts of things for like about 5 years or so. And then
when was that, roughly?
It was between like 2002 and 2007. I think when I started, I think it was the Rock the Nation tour. I think that was the first tour that I was on. And it just kind of ran its course. When I first came in there, the people who were doing their marketing were marketing them as like a serious rock band. They asked what I had thought, and I'm like, I mean, nothing against Kiss, but I'm like, these guys are pop culture heroes. They're icons.
It's a totally different thing.
You can't market them like you would Bon Jovi.
Right.
You've got to market them like you would Superman.
Right.
That's what they are. They're pop culture icons. So rather than have a whole line of T-shirts of them going and barbed wire and all this dumb crap, I did a lot of fun stuff, a lot of retro stuff. 70s looking designs. I did designs where each one of them had their own sort of custom car, like a 70s style, crazy car like the Batmobile is. Right. Like Ace had a space car that floated, and Gene had the Screaming Demon, and Paul had a bra hanging out the antenna of his car, and so just pop culture stuff. And basically, they almost I think more than doubled their merchandise sales.
I bet.
Because of this fresh take on it, and it was actually what people were really wanting. So
yeah, it didn't feel like every other Hot Topic rock band that it all goes in line with the trends. Whereas Kiss is its own entity. don't go to the trends. You are the you are the
Right.
brand. You are, you know,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Don't go to them. They need to come to you. So, yeah, it was real successful and we did good. But after about 6 years, found kind of out of ideas. Time to take on something new. 6 years is a long time to work with one
Yeah.
thing. Kiss is one thing. And at that time, they were a novelty act. They weren't really coming out with anything new. So there's just something new to build off of, and I just kind of felt, I'm not going to keep retreading tires. I'd rather move on to something else. So.
And they needed it. It was refreshing. They needed, because they couldn't keep doing whatever the early 2000s, branded stuff was.
Yeah.
Were there any other favorite clients of yours that you've had, or not cherry pick, but ones you've liked or enjoyed the results?
There was a model kit company called Mobius. It's still around, but there's new owners. But the guy that owned that company, his name was Frank, was a really cool dude. He ended up doing a whole line of model kits based on the Batman TV show. And he hired me to do the artwork for the boxes in sort of like the old 60s style, the painted, covers on the boxes. And I really enjoyed doing that. I don't know. That's not a question that I get asked very often. Like, what did I enjoy? I enjoyed my whole career. It's been a fun ride. It wasn't always easy, but there's been a lot of highlights. If I died tomorrow, I wouldn't feel like I missed out on anything. I think what the list that I had of goals when I was a kid has already been met. And I haven't had time to make new ones, though I should, because otherwise,
Right.
otherwise, where am I going? Where am I headed? So, come up with some new goals, and we'll figure that out. But I'm happy right now.
But you do have future goals in pinball and just in art in general.
Yeah, I'm going to be working for Chicago Gaming Company now. We've got a couple of irons in the fire. Obviously, you know how pinball works. You can't talk about it, but some exciting stuff coming up in the next couple of years. So.
And they are a different type of juggernaut than Stern. They've created a new system that has replaced the original board set, which is reliable. But the new modern systems are very good, very reliable en route. Their quality is good. They're at the trade shows in Orlando, the biggest arcade, coin op, and amusement trade shows in Orlando, and they had almost as big of a presence as Stern, and they had people on their games all day long as well. So it's
a bigger presence because the people at Chicago Gaming actually talked to the people that stopped at the booth.
What did they? Well, Stern was busy. Stern, be fair, Stern was wheeling and dealing, and they did have people that talk with people. They had a nice display of vertically you can watch the playfield and things, and they have a lot of games that they can remake, which kind of gives them a buffer of time for your projects, because their games are currently selling still. All three are selling, just as much as almost any game out there right now, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I went to see them when I was in Chicago, and they gave me a tour of their facility and all that, and just their attitude towards how they build their games, what they put in and what they don't put in. I was really impressed with, because they would say something like, "Well, this adds $30 to our cost, but we feel that the game, without it, the game is missing something, and people will pay it." Whereas Stern's just sort of like, here's your box. You got to stay within this box, and that's it. They're not like that. They're interested in making. CGC is interested in making just a good game, an awesome game, and they just put in it what they feel it requires to get it to that level. And I like that. And the people that work there are just fantastic. They're very, very nice people. So I couldn't be happier. It's not. Some people might consider market share wise that it's a drop in a job to go from Stern to them, but I see it as taking a step up, because the quality that they have and the excitement and the passion that they have is unmatched by Stern as a whole. There are people at Stern that do fit that. But Stern as a whole, I don't feel matched what CGC has to offer.
So do you think that? So you've been to the factory and you've met the owners and the people in each department.
Doug and Ryan, basically the people that I talked to.
To me, the paradigm in life is that you grow up and you have a sense of wonder and curiosity and creativity, and to become a good adult, you kill it, you cut it. You have to do that sometimes to be in business, just in general, but you don't have to. So are you saying that basically that Chicago gaming still has that creative wonder and imagination, and they basically want to make new pinball that has the magic, so to say, and the world under glass, so to say.
The difference between the two companies, from my perspective, is that like CGC has a passion to do it. Stern does it because that's what they do.
Okay.
They've been around for years. It's like that's their thing. They do it. So we have to make a pinball machine. Okay, let's get a license. Let's design it. Let's put it out. Where CGC they're just into it.
They want to.
Not
have to.
Exactly. That's my opinion anyway, from what I see, and that's a big difference to me. When you're doing something creative, you don't want people, drawing a box and saying you got to stay inside this. You want people that will expand out and say, basically, like I was telling you, if it costs $100 more, people are willing to pay if it makes the game better. And they make all the right calls in that area. What to add and what to.
The price limit's been tested. But not fully, but it has been tested, and it's being tested. The moment that Jersey Jack announced Wizard of Oz and the price, the game changed.
Yeah.
They're saying what they would offer. Chicago Gaming, although the first run of Medieval Madness was made at Stern, and that blew my mind when I was there 5 years ago, and I'm in a Stern factory, and I'm seeing these Medieval Madness games there, or parts of it. Blew my mind, and that I knew it's one of the moments I knew that, okay, pinball's it's not just back, but it's gonna grow. And at IAPA that year, it was just Jersey Jack and then Stern, and then Chicago Gaming's there, and American Pinball's there, and I just I don't like the word bubble. I think we're growing at the rate that it's going to continually grow, because every day there's a new buyer of a used game. Every day there's a buyer of a new game. There's many licenses. Like you were, you posted the photos of the Superman and the Beetlejuice. That's thousands of games for each, to me, that people want. What was the genesis of doing that art?
Why did that art?
Yeah, how did it come to be? Yeah.
The same way we did the Beatles and Batman '66. Though I wasn't there at the beginning of Batman '66, but the Beatles was a Kapow title. It was Joe Kamiko. So after the Beatles, me and Joe had been, wondering where to go, and he said, he's like, oh, let's try Superman. Let's try Beetlejuice. And so that basically means to me that I got to come up with something to look at, So it usually means a back glass design and then one cabinet. I take a 3/4 angle and I kind of superimpose the art on it and use that as a pitch. And so we basically put it together, and Stern wasn't interested in doing any of them. There's a third one too. There's a Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. And they weren't interested in doing them. So
who was interested at Stern? Who gave any above average interest in? Did anybody internally say, "Hey, I would like to design that or be a part of that"? Or
what I was told was that it was presented to the design teams.
Okay.
And this is basically what they do when they get licenses. Is this everyone comes in and is like, okay, we've got whatever. Name something, Spinal Tap. Who wants it? And nobody raised their hand. Nobody was interested in the three of them. I couldn't say why. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Right.
I wasn't told.
Right.
I was just told. No.
Right. Anything else would have been through the grapevine.
Yeah.
Well, if any of the three were made, what would any of them need to have the magic to bring the theme alive? Like to show. I mean, what would they need? Like, what would Beetlejuice need? Like toys or?
Each one would need a different thing. And Superman, you'd have to figure out how to make a ball levitate.
Yeah.
Because the tagline would have to be, "You'll believe a ball can fly."
Yeah, I can picture my head.
The movie tagline.
Yeah.
I think Beetlejuice is just Toy City, sandworms, like all the different things that went on in that movie. You could have a ball with the design of that. So there's several different.
Doing
things.
an interview real
Hi.
quick.
I know.
Found a room. Cody.
You have press?
I have not for this year, but I typically do. And I found a room empty. If this is okay,
For the moment, but I am knocking up. So
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, gonna continue going. Okay,
Pinball's cool.
yeah, it's hard to find rooms to do interviews at these conventions, and okay, as we were going, yeah, Beetlejuice toys. I'm thinking mousing around. Like they have the scoop that comes up and down and grabs the ball, stuff like that for the sandworm.
Yeah, sandworm can either be like a sandworm coming out of the playfield, like if it's the ball's like being held and it comes out and just takes it below the playfield, because you could have a circular sandworm that appears to be coming up and going down, but they had that little town, where Beetlejuice lives. So you
Yeah.
could have a reduced, like a mini playfield, with mini flippers, sort of like what they did with Munsters. I don't know. It just visually that movie was so crazy. There's, like I remember talking to somebody about it. I don't know if it was John Borg or not. We were just talking about possibilities and stuff, and I mentioned that the Mick on the Stick or the Dracula from Monster Bash. And having that guy that was in the when they went to the waiting room to talk to the woman about being dead, that guy came by like on the clothespins or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Ran over. He had the tire treads on him. And they could go by. He could hit that. There's just tons of just visually it's such a crazy movie. No one's ever done a Tim Burton movie other than Batman, but it doesn't really count.
And they have I like that they put his face in the game. I think he's the only director that they put his face on one of the plastics.
Yeah.
And Wonder Woman could be good too.
Wonder Woman, yeah, I see Wonder Woman as sort of a vintage remake, maybe sort of like the Beatles was. Because it's the TV show Wonder Woman and not the modern day movie Wonder Woman. I guess, I don't know why. You could go either way, but she had the invisible jet, so I guess you could work on plastic ramps, and
Yeah.
Have little stickers on the side, the outline of the drawing of a plane or whatever. Something like that, who knows?
I like the phenomenon of it's not phenomenon, but I like a single layer game. No ramps. Ramps are always required to make a game fun. Like Beatles has done good on location for you, right, Kurt?
Beatles has done decent. It's it's a really great machine, but definitely you're right. The ramps really make a change in the playing the game. But I've enjoyed Beatles. I think it's a really fun game, and it makes you keep coming back to it. I always say, it was so easy. I could have gotten that extra mode. I could have beaten that one thing. The super jackpot eluded me again. The drop targets came up too early, and now I can't shoot the shot. So it's I don't know. It's a really cool game. I enjoy it.
And so if they did another single layer game of a classic theme, it could do well on route, right? You think?
It's a possibility, but not to speak ill of anything.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful game, and I enjoy it. But it is it's kind of a tier 2 machine, if you will, amongst the latest Sterns.
To Joe Schmoes that come into a bar.
It's Beatles,
they don't see the ramps and all the stuff. It looks like it's like going to Geauga Lake instead of SeaWorld.
Right, and you've got it in a mix of all the other machines that have come out.
Yeah.
It's just kind of it's different.
Yeah.
But the you take Batman 66 on the other hand, a beautiful machine that kept. And at first with the lack of code when it first came out, we were like, what is this? It's not complete, blah, blah. That actually, and this is the only, maybe not the only time this has worked to the operator's favor, but as they started adding villains over the course of that next year, maybe, I don't know, year and a half, and more layers came into the machine. And every time more and more layers came into the machine, the players stayed interested. Our regular players kept going, oh, there's that King Tut thing now, or there's this or that, and they kept coming to it. So, so Batman was good in that code aspect. Got away from your question, but just wanted to say that was cool. Batman's been probably one of our longest term consistent earners that we've had since we got it. We're ready to sell the one we've got and buy a replacement one because we just want to have a more fresh one there.
So it paid itself off.
I don't know. I can't say if it did or didn't.
I'd say it did because modern games do earn.
It probably has, Cody, but
Just say I think so.
I think so, but yeah, it's definitely been a well performing machine. As new games come out, it still kind of stays.
Well, lastly, to clear up any error, misunderstanding, or mispress of anything, in a nutshell, what were like the key reasons that you're moving on to other artistic endeavors in pinball? What were like the key in a nutshell?
Gary Stern and I never kind of saw eye to eye on things. He never really had much to do with what I did art-wise for Stern, but like whenever I would do a expo, it's sort of an unwritten rule that if you're an artist, as long as you make like low number runs, it's cool to make art prints of your art because, people come to your table, and you don't have that. What are you supposed to sign, Most people don't bring things to sign. They just see it there and they go, oh, cool, and they go over to get something. So, whenever I would do like a low number of run of art prints of whatever game I might have been doing, whether it was Batman or Guardians or whatever, I would just get grief, like unbelievable grief. You can't sell that, you can't do this, you can't. And it's just like it happens all the time. Go to a comic book convention, There's a person sitting right across the aisle from Marvel themselves that worked for Marvel, and he's got like a little stack of prints of the Iron Man cover that he did, and Marvel will come out and go, hey Joe, and walk by. They won't go, oh, you can't do that, and take them and walk away. It's an unwritten rule.
They sell comics with blank covers, for Christ's sake, now.
It happens all the time, but Gary's just, I don't know, he's old school or what, he just couldn't get it. So we'd lock horns about that all the time. So that was a source of friction. And then, basically one thing led to another. Series of unfortunate circumstances left me to where I was waiting around for a job this past February. They actually put me on the Star Wars job, and Star Wars, the Lucasfilm said that my art was too refined, which in that case meant it was too nice. Like they wanted it to look comic booky, like everybody's seen the art, what it looks like now. Yeah. My art was still a little too polished for them. But rather than say, give it another shot, they just went, moving on now, and they suggested to Stern, here's a list of guys that we work with, pick somebody. So I was out on that job. And then another job came up where I didn't even know what it was. They just said, can you come and meet us? This was like on a Wednesday or something. Can you be here the next Monday? I live in Michigan, they're in Chicago. It's like a 4-hour drive. I said, sure. And before that day even came, they called me back and said, never mind, licensing issues and going in a different direction. So there were 2 jobs got yanked out from under me. So I'm waiting. At this point, I'm just like, well, I'm leaving. I didn't tell Stern anything. I just like, I'm leaving. And I went and started seeing what else was out there. And
yeah, because you're in essence freelance. I mean, you're not like a contract. Yeah. Like I have you tied up for a year or a time frame.
If you work for Stern, they won't let you work for anybody else.
They won't let you. Right.
There's nothing in writing. They just, if you work for someone else, they just let you go. That's what happened to Donnie.
Right.
So back in February, I'm just like, well, I'm just going to leave. And then Joe Kamenko is actually my mentor, and I look up to him. He's been very successful. He said, don't leave Stern, stick around, stick it out. So I'm like, all right. So, after 3 days of thinking, I'm free, I'm back at Stern. And then June came around, and I was just tired of waiting. We're now talking 4 months later and still nothing, not even a peep of a job. So I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm done. I'm moving on. And actually talked to Deep Root. Most of the people I talked to were interested in using me, but they had nothing at the time because they don't work like Stern does. You know, Jersey Jack was like, yeah, we'd love to work with you, but we're not going to have anything for 2 years. You know?
Wow.
So I was like, all right, well, we'll talk in 2 years. The closest I got was Deep Root, but they took 5 weeks to get back with me. And at that point, I was just like, I'm seeing the writing on the wall. Like, even if I do hook up with somebody, it's going to be a while before I work on something, because none of them have the turnaround that Stern does.
Yeah.
So I, just like, well, maybe I should stick with Stern. And then I get word from Joe Camico that this is when I released that artwork for Superman and Beetlejuice. I get word from Joe Camico. He says, well, you're done at Stern. And I'm like, well, what happened? Because I'm thinking, like, I'm leaving. I never would have thought in a million years, you're fired. So I'm like, what happened? He says, well, Gary's pissed off because he thinks you made him look bad because of all that art being released. And I'm like, I just released the art. How does that make anybody look bad? Well, because, people are yelling at him because he didn't take the license. I'm like, but that's not my fault.
Right.
I didn't tell him not to. He could have.
So why get mad about what people want?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know what he thought I would have done with that artwork. I spent a whole lot of time on it. Right. So just to share it with people, I was just trying to be nice. I never released it and said, "What, Stern are a bunch of idiots."
No.
They didn't do this. I just put it out
there. There's no amendment. There's just here it is.
Just put it out there. So I'm like, okay, well, I sent emails to all the key people that I worked with at Stern. Says, been nice working for you. Thanks for the opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. And George Gomez emails me back, and he basically says, paraphrasing, I want to work with you. I'll find something for you. Don't pay attention to what anybody else says. We'll get this done. We'll find something. So there I am again, waiting for work. 5 weeks after I talked to Deep Root, they come back to me, and I'm like, well, I'm back with Stern. And I said, but, let's keep in touch. Don't know what the future holds.
You don't.
I was basically told, yeah, you're too flaky, so we're not going to keep in touch. I'm like, I waited 5 weeks for you guys to get back with me. I don't know what else I could have done, but whatever. Okay, I'm flaky. So now I'm back at Stern, but nothing ever came. Again, nothing, months go by, and it's like September now, and I'm like, all right, I got to move on.
Well, at all times, they have at least three licenses or more.
Yeah.
Sealed up at the very least.
So I know there's something going on for 2020 that surely we could be talking about, but we're not.
Right.
So I'm just like, I called Joe and I said, this is the third time now, and I'm not letting you talk me into staying. I'm leaving. And he's like, okay, fair enough. And so the consensus is now Stern's telling people that they let me go. I'm telling people that I walked away. I personally believe it's both. I think they they didn't have intentions of using me for whatever reason. Maybe they were just trying to keep me at bay. But,
right. So you didn't work for other
so
people?
Else? Yeah. But, it's no doubt that I know Gary was unhappy with me. I was unhappy with them. So it's a mutual thing. But it happened very strangely. But that's the deal. I think neither one of us were happy.
It could have been a lot worse. It's not like... Yeah, I've never heard them say anything bad about them, or you vice versa, back and forth. So it's just it maybe ran its course.
Yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate, but we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, and they weren't necessarily important things, but it's difficult to talk to I didn't really have the opportunity to sit down and talk to Gary and explain the art thing, because every time they had a problem with me, they'd go to Joe, and then Joe would come to me.
Oh.
So I wasn't talking, Gary wasn't calling me up personally and saying, though he did one time, he yelled at me for making art or making money off of his name, and he was just yelling on the phone. I'm like, what the heck? Like the phone call started with, hey, Chris, this is George, and I got Greg Frere's here too, and Gary's here, and then Gary just took the mic, and he's yelling and screaming and like making money off my name, and what are you talking about? And then he basically hung up on me, and so then I called George back, and I'm like, George, what was that? What was he talking about? And what had happened was, whenever I went to go see those guys, I would bring them gifts. Like I'd have stuff made. Like I designed a retro Stern logo that they actually are selling right now.
Right, I've seen them, yeah.
Yeah, the birth of that was me making a canvas, a little mini canvas of it, and giving it to the guys that I worked with as a gift. I just like to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
Well, he thought I was making them and selling them, because a lot of other people that worked there saw them and they wanted one. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to order them and have them ship it to me and then me send it to you. Here's the artwork. Here's the place I got them done at. Make your own.
Right.
So they started popping up, and he just thought I was like out in the parking lot with get your Stern canvases here.
Yeah.
I don't know what he
here's
thought.
your Stern.
Yeah, I was out making money.
Heavy
I was
metal
losing
shirt.
money.
Wow.
So making gifts for people can do a bad thing, but that was the only time I ever talked to him one-on-one. And he did, to his credit, he did call me personally and apologize for that. But after that, whenever they had a problem with me, they would go to Joe, and Joe would come to me. And it started being a conflict of interest. I told Joe, and nothing against Joe at all. I mean, Joe's a dear friend. But I told Joe, I said, how long have you known Gary? And he'd say, whatever, 30 years. I'm like, how long have you known me? Like, what, 5 years at best? So answer this question, and I know the answer, and I won't be offended by it. Who are you better friends with? Gary, of course you are. I understand that. Now, when it becomes the three of us and you're giving me advice, should I be thinking that the advice you're giving me is more suited to benefit Gary because you're better friends with him? Or are you really telling me what's best for me? And psychologically, maybe he wouldn't even be aware of it. Maybe that's just the way things are going. So I said, I just, when it comes to Stern, I don't know that I can take your advice. And that's the last time when I said I was leaving, that's when I actually left. So that's the way things go.
Well, if all you've done we'll be doing at Stern is what you've done, it's as a legacy. And it adds a good vibrance to the pinball art. I mean, every era has good art. Now you've had a new look.
Yeah. It's I'm really proud of what I did. I do not do pinball art for a living.
Correct.
I work for a company called Zynga, which does social media games, and I'm a senior character artist there. Pinball art is for fun. I do it on the side. Now, if it ceases to be fun,
right,
then you don't do it, and that's why I left Stern, because the fun had gotten sucked out. But it's a ton of fun working with CGC.
Good.
And so I'm still in the game for now.
You've started work on projects like actually,
well, I did the background
medieval madness topper.
For the
That topper's amazing.
Well, I said I don't mind taking a back seat to that sculpt. That sculpt is amazing.
No, it's sold out. It's gone. It's sold out.
The topper did?
Yeah, it's. I've heard they told me it's sold out, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, my contribution adds very little to that thing. The sculpt on those three characters is amazing, but that was just basically the first thing I did for them, and I'm doing a couple of other little odds and ends things, like not anything that I'd really like, taking credit for, which is probably the most I can say about that. But then actually moving on to designing full art packages for 1 or 2 games coming up.
And they've already started designing those, or is it?
Well, one of them for sure.
One of them for sure.
Yeah.
Have you seen the playfield? Have you seen the layout any?
No.
I mean,
I can't talk. Actually, to answer your question, no, I have not. But I can't reveal any secrets. I've seen nothing when it comes to whatever the new game is.
And lastly, in the process of, not Batman, well, in the process in general of all the projects, do you see the layout and then do the art? How does it work in concert in a nutshell?
Well, I could only speak on my experience with Stern at this point, and what that was they would pretty much have a finished whitewood, and they would call me in, and I would sit down, like the last time I was Munsters. So I sat down with John Borg, and I sat down with Dwight Sullivan, and we had a big printout, CAD, printout of the playfield. And I had a marker, and Dwight was going, now these are for this, and this is the Eddie ramp, this is the Maryland ramp, this is the Grandpa Munster, and blah, 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 and this is going to do that. And so I'm just scribbling notes all over this giant printout, and then I bring that home, and then they send me the actual file, and then I start filling it in, like from nothing. It's a very daunting task to just see a big white
Empty.
area with all these little, inserts and outlines for stuff, and go, okay, fill it in. Ooh,
Inserts help, but it's
It's
you
just
gotta do. You're
scary.
doing it all. Yeah, you're doing it
Yeah.
all.
Do you do the insert lettering as well, or is that
Mhm.
like old times? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think Williams used to have like a separate person that did a lot of
Well,
lettering and stuff.
What we do, as far as I know, what we do is I design everything, including that. And I think
Cool.
what Stern does is a guy named Stephen Martin, awesome dude, works in the art department. He strips all of that out of the artwork and he redoes it the same way, using the same fonts and same, whether it's white letters with a black outline or vice versa or whatever. He just redoes it in a different program because it's a different print process.
Okay.
Because they have to hit it like twice or something, because when it's printing on a light, it would show through if you just
Yeah.
run.
And a
send it
plastic
back.
as opposed to wood.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So they've got a different process they use, and I guess they don't bother us with that.
The
And
minutia
They
and
just
stuff.
take it and they redo
Yeah.
it to our specs. So Stephen does a whole lot of work when it comes to the play fields and doing that.
It all comes together. It looks good. Nothing looks off in the art pieces, and
They've been doing it for 40 years, more probably, Stern. So yeah, they definitely know what they're doing.
you guys have anything to say to your fans, to the location people, or you guys are fans, or just people? It's what-
Well, you go first.
As far as pinball goes, location pinball can't be location pinball without the players, without people just showing up, enthusiasts, without people that make great artwork to make the games attractive and good themes that correspond. But we can't do what we do without the players coming in, and we really appreciate that. And we're happy that we were able to bring Chris Franchi out this year to sign some of the stuff and see the guy that made the art for the games that you enjoy playing. So pretty cool opportunity.
Yeah, and I'd say the same. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for people appreciating my work. So I love you all, and thanks for the support. It's always good when you work a year of you spend a year of your life on something and you set it out there, and to have people. A lot of people don't get that sort of satisfaction in their jobs. They're
We're
out
in.
there, patching holes in the roads, and everyone's just yelling at them, "Get out of my way!"
I always give my thumbs up. Like I'm always
Yeah.
just like thanks.
I'm a
you know.
waiver.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's definitely nice to to talk to people and hear what they have to say and the support that they give and all that. It's definitely very much appreciated.
Well, thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Both of your great work, keeping pinball alive and keeping pinball attractive. And I look forward to seeing you guys' future endeavors and work.
And don't forget to check out the super awesome pinball show.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Boom shakalaka. Thank you.